So you remember when Cori Bush and AOC went and did their sleep-in because they wanted to get the eviction moratorium extended, but they didn't do it through normal order. They didn't bring it up during the House. They didn't. They just let the House adjourn, and then they slept out on the steps. But they didn't call for other people to come down. They didn't use their Twitter accounts and tell people to come down there. The only people who were on the steps with them were like their staff and a couple of sycophants. There's less than 100 people out there, I'm told. I wasn't there. I'm told by the reporters who were there. Why? And, well, what we said was this looks like a stunt. This looks like something that's being, this is sanctioned. Nancy Pelosi is okay with this. And she was. And we said that the Supreme Court is going to overturn this if they do this. And they did. So their eviction moratorium is no longer. Why aren't they back out there protesting? And so here's what happened. House Democrat sleeps on Capitol steps as she blasts lawmakers over expiring eviction moratorium. What they should have did, if they're going to act, this is a real protest, what they should have done was make sure that Congress reconvened and made sure that we took care of the people getting evicted. They didn't do that. They let this bullshit moratorium get extended, leaving out 10% of the people as it was, which is over 1 million people. And that, as we predicted, it would be sent back to the Supreme Court, where they would strike it down. So this wasn't going to work. We knew it at the beginning. And so what they said is they declared victory. Cori Bush and AOC declare victory as Biden agrees to extend the eviction moratorium. And I said, well, if that worked, if a 5-day sleep-in that was poorly attended can move mountains. Here's what she says. On Friday night, I came to the Capitol with my chair. I refused to accept that Congress could leave for vacation while 11 million people faced eviction. Well, that's exactly what they did. And now 11 million people face eviction again, and you're not doing anything. Because that was a stunt. This was all coordinated. That's why you saw Chuck Schumer out there. For 5 days, we've been out here demanding that our government acts to save lives. Today, our movement moved mountains. You moved mountains? Then why would you ever stop moving mountains? Why wouldn't you spend 5 more days to get Congress back in to give us a real eviction moratorium? Why wouldn't you sleep 5 more days to get us a living wage? Why wouldn't you sleep 5 more days to get us health care? Why wouldn't you sleep 5 more days to get student debt relief? Why wouldn't you sleep 5? Why would you ever stop moving mountains? Because this was a fucking setup, and it was okayed by Nancy Pelosi and the leadership because they knew this was going to happen. And they immediately fundraised off that. Immediately. Breaking, the Supreme Court blocks Biden's moratorium on tenant evictions by 6th. And this was predicted. Everybody knew this was happening. This was a stunt. And you want to know how I know it was a stunt? Because here they are celebrating that they got a victory. Well, people ask them, hey, what about the people who don't have rent forgiveness? And what about the 10% of the people who aren't covered? Because this was a targeted moratorium. That means 1.1 million people are going to be left out. What's your answer for those 1.1 million people? What? This shows you that they are not genuine. This was a stunt, and now those people are out on they're all fucked. And watch how they care. Watch how they care.
People said, "How are you going to do it? What's your 10-point plan? What are you doing 5:30 p.m. on Saturday? How many days are you going to be here?"
So those were people when they started it, asking them, "How long are you willing to do this? And what are you willing to do to make? What is your?" They were trying to get them to actually commit, but they wouldn't. And so she's trying to dismiss those people who are trying to get them to commit. How long are you going to stay here? And what is the action you want to take place? What is your demand? And how long are you willing to stay here? And who else are you going to call down here to protest? Those are the questions. Those are legit. So by the way, that is organizing 101. You lay out your agenda, what you're going to do, what your demands are. And they wouldn't do that. And here we go.
Yeah, but what about? And we said none of that matters. People's rent be forgiven. We're going to figure that out.
So someone says, what about people's rent forgiveness? And she doesn't have an answer for it. We're going to figure that out. No, you're not. You didn't even figure out the eviction moratorium. You didn't figure it out at all. And what gets worse.
But
What are you going to do? You asked us what we're going to do. What are you guys going to do?
Here's what we're going to do. The CDC just announced an eviction moratorium, and what we're here is for our reasons known and unknown. So our reasons known was to make sure that we extended this moratorium. That's what we're here to do.
What about the 10%?
What about the 10% of the people this moratorium doesn't cover? That's 1.1 million people. That's a legitimate question. And if you really cared about people and people being evicted, you would care about them just as much as the other people. But they don't care about them to the point where they stick their fingers in their ears. You think I'm kidding?
What about the 10%?
Okay, we're going to turn on some music now.
What about the 10%? We can't sell.
I don't care. So if you can watch that without your stomach churning and not feel like you're being fucking scammed, good for you. You're a willful dupe. And now there's no eviction moratorium. And where are they? What are they doing? Nothing. What were they doing there? Nothing. This was a fucking setup. They're doing nothing. But what were they doing in the meantime? Oh, renters prepare for eviction after the Supreme Court ruling. In most courts, eviction cases have been delayed by judges for many months and can now begin to go forward again. In others, evictions that were approved at the hands of the marshals and sheriffs are ready to be executed. For months, the White House and legal experts insisted that the CDC didn't have the authority to act and that it was incumbent upon Congress to pass an extension. So everybody knew it was incumbent on Congress to pass an extension, including Nancy Pelosi, including Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and AOC, and the squad. But the House left for an 8-week recess after failing to pass an extension, and they let them leave. They didn't call out Nancy Pelosi. They didn't never cross Nancy Pelosi for ending the congressional session without taking care of the eviction moratorium. They never fucking brought that up, that Nancy Pelosi did that on purpose. The Supreme Court ruling is a reminder that Speaker Pelosi should not have adjourned the House and allowed the eviction ban to expire. Boy, that is the nicest way I've ever heard it put. If he would also keep going, he would say, and the squad's refusal to force her hand on this is despicable. And then to grandstand and act like you're trying to do something when that was a stunt. What? They would never cross Nancy. They're not going to cross Nancy Pelosi. It's not happening. Nancy Pelosi she adjourned the Congress without addressing the eviction ban. They knew she was doing that, and they let it happen. But what were they doing? They were stuffing their pockets with fucking money from the real estate industry. That's what the Democrats were doing. Democrats received $1 million from real estate mogul just before failing in their relentless campaign to extend a lifeline to struggling renters. This is from the Daily Poster. The Daily Poster is going right at the fucking squad hard. Democrats received $1 million from a real estate mogul just before failing their relentless campaign to extend a lifeline to struggling renters. Meanwhile, Democrats have been raking in money from residential real estate interests that benefit from the moratorium expiring. Lobbyists for real estate interests have been flooding Democrats with cash. The lobbying firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck has bundled hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of donations for the DSCC this year. Brownstein's lobbying clients include private equity firms with substantial real estate interests. George Marcus, chairman of both the massive real estate brokerage Marcus & Millichap and the real estate investment trust Essex Property Trust, donated $1 million on June 1st to House Democrat Majority PAC. Marcus, who has a net worth of $1.7 billion, has also been a huge Biden supporter. He donated $4 million to a super PAC that supported Biden. He contributed, but you guys, we got to keep voting for Biden, right? Right? Is that what you guys, that they will tell the same people who write these articles and know everything that I know will tell you to keep voting for these fucking corrupt enemies of the people. That's the beauty, right? I have the courage to not only be on the left, critique the Democrats from the left, but tell you to stop fucking voting for them. Because that's the only thing that's going to change them, as Lawrence O'Donnell has told us. The only chance you have to pull the Democratic Party to the left is to show you're willing to not vote for them. He contributed millions more to Democratic Party super PACs that aid their committees, $3.5 million to the Senate Majority PAC, and $3 million to the House Majority PAC. Marcus is part of a group of billionaire landlords that have together seen their personal fortunes increase by nearly $25 billion since last March. Democrats took millions from real estate interests before allowing eviction moratorium to end. The Democratic Party knows exactly what they're doing. That's why they turned on the music instead of answering questions from citizens. Who turns on the music when you're asking someone who's supposed to be a woman of color who really cares about the people who are being evicted? They're supposed to really care. And they ask them about these people being evicted. They go, let's dance and sing. A phony does that. That's who does that. And let me remind you, this isn't lefty Jimmy Dore saying it or the lefty Daily Posters. This is the fucking punch bowl, fastball down the middle, mainstream newsletter in Washington, D.C. And what do they say? This is what they say. The squad, which has expanded to 7 members this Congress, has been generally supportive of the leadership and Biden this year. Generally? Yeah. There was a moment last month when it looked like they were going to bring down a $1.9 billion capital security funding bill due to concerns about more money going to the U.S. Capitol Police. In the end, AOC to lead Representative Jamal Bowman voted present, while Omar Presley and Bush voted no. Representative Mondaire Jones voted yes. The bill ended up passing by a single vote. They coordinated so it would pass by a single vote. $2 billion more for cops. But the episode showed that the leadership is essentially powerless without the squad. That's what the leadership is, essentially powerless without them. The squad, if it chooses to, could run the House. And shame on all you shit libs who are defending politicians instead of holding their feet to the fire. That would be The Intercept, Ryan Grimm, the Young Turks, and all the rest of the shit libs in their fucking satellite organ. I want to show you it again. I'm going to show you it again.
And we showed up. People said, how are you going to do it? What's your 10-point plan? What are you doing 5:30 p.m. on Saturday? How many days are you going to be here? Yeah, but this is that. But what about? And we said none of that. None of that matters. People's rent be forgiven. We're going to figure that out. But
what are you going to do? You asked us what we're going to do. What are you guys going to do?
Here's what we're going to do. The CDC just announced an eviction moratorium, and what we're here is for our reasons known and unknown. So our reasons known was to make sure that we extended this moratorium. That's what we're here to do.
What about the 10%? What about the 10%?
Okay, we're going to turn on some music now.
What about the 10%?
If you can watch that without your stomach churning, you deserve the shit government you get. If you can watch that and tell people to vote for Democrats, you deserve the shit government you get. If you can watch that and then defend elected politicians who won't even ask a simple question about 1 million people about to get kicked out of their house, you deserve the shit government you get. We were outside the Capitol for 5 days, rain, heat, cold. If they think this partisan ruling is going to stop us from fighting to keep people housed, they're wrong. Congress needs to act immediately for every unhoused or Well, I guess if that tweet doesn't get it done. I guess that's all we could do. Ilhan Omar tweeted out, prevent mass evictions and homelessness, cancel rent and mortgages for the duration of the pandemic. Beth says, how? How are we going to do that? What's your plan? I say, well, if this tweet doesn't fix it, then I guess that's all anybody could do. You want to see the squad in a nutshell? This is the squad in a nutshell.
You know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do about it? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tweet my displeasure. That's right. I'm going to jump on social media and I'm going to tweet about it until my fingers bleed. I might even send an Instagram or a Vine.
Even the WWF is more real than the squad. Professional wrestlers. More real than the Justice Democrats. I love the way the entire alt-left pretends the squad did nothing when before Cory... First of all, I thought this was a joke. So this reads like a joke, right? It looks like someone who agrees with me and watches my show. Watch it up. Watch the next tweet, though. It says, I love the way the entire alt-left pretends the squad did nothing when before Cory Bush and the rest did their days-long protest, they sent 3 signed detailed letters to Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer, telling them they need to have a vote to extend the moratorium, and they were ignored. They sent 3 detailed letters. I thought he was joking. I thought this person was joking, because that's funny. Do you think they didn't do anything? Well, they did send a sternly worded letter. Did they threaten to withhold their votes on must-pass legislation? Well, no, they're not going to do that. That would be rude. You mean, did they use their leverage to get it done? No, if you use leverage, that's rude. I thought this was, like I sent this to my producer, Mark. I go, Mark, this guy's hilarious. Look at that. We got to use it. But then look at the next one. Notice also Dore never has a plan for what he would have done that would have been so much better. He wasn't kidding. I have a plan. I've had a plan since last December. The plan is that the squad uses their leverage to get progressive policies voted on and implemented, because you can't pass any bills without them. And they hold all the power, just like the Punch Bowl newsletter said. They hold all the power. They could run the House if they want. That's my plan. So this idea, I had forced the vote. That was a plan. What are you talking about? Did anybody else have a plan? What's their plan? Nothing. Their plan is to tweet. Here's another one. Like you're doing anything except throwing a sexist tantrum. There it is. Do you wonder why people hate fucking lefties? Do you wonder why people hate Democrats? Not lefties. Do you wonder why people hate Democrats? Because that's all they know how to do. Call you a sexist, call you a racist. That's all they fucking know how to do. You know what that is? That's actually misogynistic, what this person's doing. So Political Nerd is being misogynist because he doesn't think female politicians should be held to the same standard as male politicians. That's actually being sexist and misogynistic. That you think women should be held to a different standard. Like you're doing anything except throwing a sexist tantrum directed at people actually doing the work to build progressive power while going on Tucker and endorsing white supremacist Jimmy Dore. Again, they're not doing anything to build a progressive power. They're not doing anything. They're doing everything to squelch the energy of the progressive movement and dissipate it. Where were they when there was 50 cities Medicare for All march? Where were they? They weren't there. That would be something to build progressive power. Show everybody how the progressives show up for Medicare. They're not doing that because Joe Biden doesn't want them to do it, so they don't do it. The entire Democratic Party is acting like Joe Biden is their boss, including Bernie Sanders. Guess what the Democrats were doing? Democrats were scoring cash from the real estate industry while they were not helping extend the eviction moratorium. So until you people stop voting for Democrats, the country will continue to get worse. You will continue to not have health care. We will continue to waste trillions of dollars on foreign wars. We will continue to punish workers. We will continue to withhold health care from people in the middle of a deadly pandemic, a health care system that would save 200,000 lives. Congrats, shit libs. You got it. You can have all the politicians, all the virtue signaling politicians in the world. Every fucking identity politics. Let's remember what identity politics is. They didn't actually put somebody in place to help you. Like the squad is not using their votes as leverage to get things for you. They're using their identity to shut you up. That's what they're doing. They're using their identity to how dare you? You're a sexist. How dare you ask me to do what I campaigned on? And that's that's how you get Trump. That's how you get a shit Democratic Party. That's how you get people living under every bridge in California that is a super majority Democratic state with a Democratic governor. That's how you get 80% of workers living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of all wage earners earn less than $30,000 a year. That's how you get that shit done. That's how it happens. And it needs people like The Intercept, the Young Turks, and the mainstream media to run interference for those same shit politicians as they're selling you out. The Jimmy Dore Show is coming to a city near you August 28th. We're in Las Vegas at the Plaza. And we just added another show in Portland. We're there in Portland on September 10th and 11th. October 3rd, we're at Harlow's in Sacramento. More dates being added. Go to jimmydoorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets. See you at a live show.